Good evening, America. Jordan Sheridan live. Status Coup. It is Tuesday, November 12th, year 2024, in the United Corporations of America. Here with the slender silver fox, Steve Grumbine. What are we, 20 pounds lighter? Looking good.
About that right now, yes. 20 pounds. Trying,
You
man.
know,
I got pretty heavy, man. Arthritis is a son of a bitch.
I took my daughter to her 2-year appointment today, and she wouldn't sit on the scale long enough because she was hysterical crying. So they had they had me hold her and go on the human, the adult scale. So they would take both of us and then subtract me. And boy, I did not like what I saw for my weight. I'm gonna have to get on the Steve Grumbine diet. But this is what happens also when you don't poop normally. I'm working on it, Steve. I'm working on it. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, smash that like button, share this live stream. Plenty to get to here. We have the goblins and ghouls of the Democratic Party still in meltdown mode. Now, a week after they lost to the orange orangutan for the second time in 8 years. We have anti-war Trump. You remember when some leftists were calling Trump anti-war? Well, we have anti-war Trump picking a murderer's row of warmonger war criminals that would make Dick Cheney blush. So surprise, shock, not anti-war, very much pro-war and totally part of the establishment, Donald Trump. Sorry, MAGA, if you're watching, your head's about to spin. Also, possibly some establishment Democrats learning a lesson 10 years too late. So a lot to get to. Steve, before we get to anything, how you doing in these trying times? We're a week after the election. This is the first time you've been on. What do you think?
I'll be honest with you. I didn't give a rat's ass about the election. I was embarrassed to be an American, not because of Trump necessarily, because I didn't think we had any say so really in how the stuff panned out anyway. But to see people talking about this is the end of democracy and all this stuff, it really broke my heart to see how far away the people that are supposed to be my allies are, and watching them literally go into meltdown when they had an administration that was telling you flat out they were going to commit genocide. They didn't care. They were going to keep doing it. And that didn't faze them. They didn't get moved by it. It wasn't, oh my God, this is the end of life for the Palestinians. It was just like, oh my God, we're going to lose democracy if Trump gets in. So that sickened me. And now that he's in there, he's doing exactly what you knew he would do. So I'm completely unfazed other than by a hardcore lag on emotions dealing with knowing my nation, the nation we live in, is funding a genocide, and almost all the people in this country don't give a flying fuck about it. That has me really in shambles.
Yep, absolutely. And that genocide, the rate Trump's going, Gaza might be a strip mall by dinner time. Unfortunately, I don't say that to take it lightly, but boy, things are not looking good in terms of the Zionist ghouls and Christian fundamentalist warmongers he's appointing. I do want to start there. Obviously, there's not going to be a shortage of coverage of Trump's appointments, but I do think we should weigh in. We will get to James Carville's hysterics a little bit later, and also your overall take on the Democratic autopsy, which in 2016 it was Russia. Now it's the woke monster. It's the wokeness that killed us, not the 40-year neoliberal bubble. But Trump, it's been reported now. I guess some in MAGA world are trying to stop it last minute. But it has been reported that little Marco Rubio, is going to be his Secretary of State. Remember when Marco Rubio was Tea Party and like anti-government? You remember that like over a decade ago? Boy. Just this whole thing, it's all a grift. Oh, by the way, I should reminder before we go forward. Thursday night, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific is our monthly members call, and boy, do we have a lot to discuss. So if you are a Status Coup member, put it in your calendar and smoke it. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, Thursday night. We'll talk election, some other stuff going on behind the scenes I can tell you about, and more. I hope all the people who have been signing up, we've gotten about 50 or so new members since the election. I hope you will join us. If you are a new member, you will get the link. If you signed up to our website, you'll get the link through your email to our members call. It's actually through a program like Zoom. If you signed up through YouTube, you'll see it under the YouTube community tab. We usually send the link out about a half hour before the call. So 7:30 Eastern, you'll get it around 7 or 4:30 Pacific. So 4 if you're on the West Coast. And please sign up. We need to, you're getting all these, Steve, you're getting them, all these emails from all these media outlets. Give us money so we could be the resistance media again. No, we're not going to be the resistance media. We will cover Trump. We're about to. We're not going to cover Trump 24/7. You could go elsewhere for that. We're going to cover everything the corporate and, frankly, independent media is going to ignore for the next 4 years as they relentlessly, for profit mostly, cover Donald Trump. I think there's a fine line between covering the president, which you should, and covering the president morning, noon, night, midnight snack. You don't need to cover 24/7. We could walk and chew gum at the same time. And we have corporate sacrifice zones we need to expose. We have environmental genocide we need to expose. We have worker exploitation, worker oppression, union organizing, worker strikes, and if there is a God, some type of economic protest over the next 4 years. Okay. So you pick Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. Maybe, throw him a bone because Marco desperately prostituted himself to be picked as vice president. New York Times, Trump expected to name Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. This is from Ben Norton, have been on Status Coup before. Rubio is an extreme warmonger, supported wars on Libya and Syria, is as pro-Israel as it gets, is extremely aggressive against China, Russia, and Iran, backed many coups in Latin America. Colin, I don't know if you have the clip ready yet of Marco Rubio when confronted by the dear Medea Benjamin on whether he wanted a ceasefire after October 7th. Let me know if you have it.
Senator Rubio, will you call for a ceasefire?
No, I will not.
Gaza?
On the contrary.
Senator Rubio,
are you filming it?
Wait,
So I want you guys to get this. I want them to destroy every element of Hamas they can get their hands on. These people are vicious animals who did horrifying crimes. And I hope you guys post that.
And what about the civilians that are being killed every day?
Hamas should stop hiding behind civilians, putting civilians in the way. Hamas knew that this was going to lead to this. So Hamas should stop building their military installations underneath hospitals.
So you don't care that 15,000 have died? You don't care about the babies that are being killed every day?
I think it's horrifying. I think it's terrible, and I think Hamas is 100% to blame. That's what I think. Make sure you post that.
Jesus Christ, man.
Translated bombs away. He
sounds so like the AIPAC funded Democrats.
Yeah. So that's Marco Rubio. Let's go a little deeper. This from the Washington Post. Rubio actually called for insubordination, or basically called for punishments of officials that called for a ceasefire. In today's apprehensive environment, there may be no topic of discussion more fraught than the Israel-Gaza war. This could be particularly intimidating for federal employees unsure about workplace rules over expressing their opinions, despite having a wider latitude than many realize. Marco Rubio fed the intimidation last week with letters to federal offices demanding investigations into more than 500 employees he accused of insubordination because they called for a ceasefire in an open letter previously reported by the New York Times. So this was a couple months after the October 7th attack. So investigations. Talk about, this is right out of the Red Scare playbook, Joe McCarthy. Then you have Trump, this from the Washington Post, Rubio for state, Waltz for national security advisor. And that is not Tim Waltz, or Tim Walz, excuse me. This is Mike Waltz. And he basically is a check the box, let's go to war with everybody kind of guy. He was a congressman. Let me read it here. Waltz, a retired special forces officer who used to work for Dick Cheney, is one of the most vocal critics of China in Congress and previously advocated for an open-ended U.S. military commitment in Afghanistan. He has sat on a number of key national security committees in the House. This pick may foreshadow the kind of clashes between Trump and his aides that dominated his first term in office when he sought to pull U.S. troops out of Syria and negotiate a nuclear arms deal with North Korea, moves that were ardently opposed by some of his more hawkish aides. The development capped a busy day of personnel news as Trump moves to fill key roles in administration, including Stephen Miller. I also want to read about Mike Waltz. Trump's report, this from Reason magazine, Trump reported National Security Advisor supports bombing Russia and Afghanistan. Mike Waltz has called for a credible military option against Iran, wants to take the handcuffs off Ukraine, and regrets ending the multi-generational war in Afghanistan. My God. So much for keeping out the war hawks. Donald Trump has reportedly chosen Mike Waltz to be his national security advisor and Marco Rubio, his secretary of state. Rubio's a longtime regime change and war enthusiast, although he's recently pivoted to Trump's position that the war in Ukraine has to end diplomatically. Waltz, on the other hand, doesn't even have a pretense of wanting to stay out of wars. He's been passionately in favor of escalating conflicts that Trump wants out of, including in Afghanistan and Ukraine, and he supports not only threatening to attack Iran, but also militarily confronting Russia, which Waltz calls a gas station with nukes. Waltz, by the way, has pulled Rubio as well and pretends he wants to end the Ukraine war. There's no evidence he actually wants to end the Ukraine war. If last week was a bad time to be a member of the Cheney family, this week is shaping up to be a good one. After working as a Department of Defense policy planner for the Bush administration, Waltz served as former Vice President Dick Cheney's counterterrorism advisor. Whew. He said, I think we're a long haul, and I think we're in for a long haul, and I think our nation's leadership needs to begin telling the American people, I'm sorry, we don't have a choice. We're 15 years into what is going to be a multi-generational war because we're talking about defeating an idea, Waltz said about Afghanistan at CPAC 2017. Yeah, because it's so easy to kill an idea. We've seen that throughout history. And lastly, Steve, thank you for being patient. Mike Huckabee. You remember those fire stage chats on Fox News primetime? The huckster. Huckabee had his little evening show. Mike Huckabee is going to be named, and his daughter is governor of Arkansas. He's going to be named U.S. ambassador to Israel. Mike Huckabee makes my Zionist father, Larry, if you're watching, love you, but you are a Zionist. Mike Huckabee makes my Zionist father look kind of moderate. Let's listen, Colin, if you have the clip I sent you from Twitter. This is what he said when he was in Israel, I think 2017 or 2018. Might as well be saying God gave us the land.
My feelings personally, and I'm speaking only as a person, I think Israel would only be acting on the property it already owns. I think Israel has title deed to Judea and Samaria. There are certain words I refuse to use. There is no such thing as a West Bank. It's Judea and Samaria. There's no such thing as a settlement. They're communities, they're neighborhoods, they're cities. There's no such thing as an occupation.
That they get out of their minds that people are living in lean-tos and tents, and sleeping in cars, circled around a tree. They're living in very well-designed and beautiful cities and communities. Can't wait to get back. I'm going to take an extra hat. I'm going to get it to President-elect Trump. Build Israel great again. Who knows? We may see him wear this out there in one of his rallies somewhere. I don't know. Can't promise that. I can only promise he will get a copy of the hat. Thank you very much.
Jesus Christ.
And I just want to listen. We could shit on the Democratic Party all day long here, and I'm glad to do it. And we will. We're going to talk about James Carville and Morning Joe later. But let's be clear to you, leftists.
That would be me.
Donald Trump. No, not you.
It would not be.
Who said Donald Trump is more anti-war than the Democrats, which was laughable. Who kind of ignored that Donald Trump moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem because Sheldon Adelson, he's dead now, that rich Republican who, other than the Koch brothers, was the biggest donor to the Republican Party. Sheldon Adelson gave him $30 million. Sheldon Adelson was a major Zionist. And he said, I want you to move the embassy. And Donald Trump gladly did. And now Sheldon Adelson's widow gave him $100 million for his campaign this time. What do you think he's going to do? Well, he started with naming Mike Huckabee, who apparently, if you don't know, Judea and Samaria is what, the religious types think the West Bank is. God gave us Judea and Samaria. It's like my father. God gave us the land. Ooh, loony, loony. So I got news for you folks. And this is not to lecture anyone that voted, any Arab American or anyone, how you voted is how you voted, and I respect that. But I was clear, it could get worse. When I say worse, the genocide is a genocide, but I mean, I do not think the people he's surrounding himself have any hesitations about annexing the West Bank, possibly annexing Gaza. But let's start with Marco Rubio, because Marco Rubio, you've talked about, these China war hawks forever. Marco Rubio has openly said we need to take on China, Iran. If it were up to him, the North Pole. I think he's a Latino version of John McCain. This is not exactly an anti-war pick, Marco Rubio or this guy Mike Waltz.
No, Jordan, I want to take a step back. The thing about the GOP that I think everybody needs to get through their head, really, is they're just the more I'm fucking you in the face version of the Democratic Party. The same exact policies. There's literally the only thing that is different is they're saying it to you directly. They're not like faking like they're your friend and then doing the genocide thing. They're like, just say, fuck you, we're going to do it. Now, this is my only hope about this. Bad people, evil people that stayed silent when the Democrats committed genocide. I have a strange feeling the minute the guy with the bad comb over participates in it will find their way to the streets with a pussy hat on or something else, maybe even a blue bracelet, to fight for genocide for once. Maybe the people with the blacked out profile pictures with the Ukraine flag will finally get out there and fight against genocide. They have stayed strategically silent for a year now, plus. So when I think of this stuff, I think of it like, well, if you're saying either or, I'm going to say I would rather the group in office that gets the most of us united to fight against genocide than 3/4 of the population going back to sleep because brunch is much better than fighting against a genocide. And I'll stand on that every day of the week. So I'm not saying I'm pro or anything, but I want you to think about something. They're both literally positing the same position. They're not in any way, shape, or form doing anything different. They're just dickheads about it. They purposely in your face it, right? And that will get these shit libs that have been sitting on the sidelines, that'll get their dander up, and they'll suddenly remember, oh crap, genocide sucks. Okay. But it really comes down to there is one single message. It doesn't matter which party's saying it. There's one message, and that is we support Israel. We're going to fund you whatever you need, Israel. We are not putting any conditions on our support for you, Israel. Do what you want. Rubio's just saying the quiet part out loud. In a perverse way, I respect him more for that than the mealy mouth shit the Democrats said as they tried to pretend they weren't doing it, and all the shit libs that lied about it and literally said, oh, what do you want, Trump? He's going to commit more genocide.
Can I just respond to this? Because I just can't. I can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't take it anymore. I really can't take the stupidity. And I'm sorry. You might not be stupid, but I hear this so often. Do we forget that Trump armed Ukraine? Did Fox News not tell you that? Did Jimmy Dore not tell you that? Trump gave arms to Ukraine. Trump's not more anti-war on anything. Trump, by the way, Trump wanted to bomb Mexico. The only reason he didn't was he had some sane people around him. That's been reported. Trump wanted to bomb the cartels in Mexico, i.e. launch a war with Mexico. Trump bombed Syria twice. Assassinated, basically, other than the Ayatollah, the number 2 figure in Iran.
Yep.
Could have started a war. So this, and again, armed Ukraine. And this notion, Trump, strongman, Putin wouldn't have invaded Ukraine if Trump. This is not the West Wing, okay? He's not more anti-war. Now, he might be more friendly to Russia, not because of some stupid conspiracy theory that he colluded with the Russian government. He didn't. But because his largest customer in his real estate empire is Russia. That's always been his relationship with Russia. Russian oligarchs buy up his properties, particularly in Florida. So stop with the he's more anti-war with Russia. You got to separate your Democratic Party derangement, which is totally understandable, and we certainly have it here, with giving Donald Trump and the Republicans a pass. The left, the YouTube left has been doing this for clicks for the last decade. You could shit on both. You could call both corrupt. You could call both warmongers. Look, and by the way, he did not withdraw from Afghanistan, which he said he would. To Biden's credit, he did. He left a shit ton of private contractors there. He put crippling sanctions on Afghanistan, but I'll give him a little credit for actually taking the troops out. But this notion that Donald Trump is more anti-war, this is laughable. He surrounded himself and appointed John Bolton. John Bolton. Now he's putting in Rubio and Mike Waltz, who basically said, well, we got to fight for the next 50 years to kill the idea, whatever that is. And by the way, I didn't even show you the worst Huckabee clip. Colin, let's play the next Huckabee clip. This one of the more like Joel Osteen, Jesus is coming back variety.
And so for 44 years, I've been coming to Israel, and I've seen God take this country and do amazing things here. And really the only explanation for Israel, I tell people when I bring them here and they've never been before, I tell them, I said, if this is your first time, you have no context. But let me say to you, this is a fulfillment of prophecy.
Yes.
Ezekiel 37, the dry bones live again. And the desert is blooming right before our eyes. The desert is blooming here. And the only explanation for the extraordinary explosion economically and even agriculturally of this land is that God has his hand on it.
What happens next? It's about the end times. And quite frankly,
okay. You get the drift. The only thing lacking was the selling gold part. Maybe that was later
Bitcoin.
on.
Yeah, Bitcoin's next.
Yes. Now, devil's advocate, Steve, you could say, well, Trump, what do they say? He likes, what's that saying about enemies? He likes pitting enemies against each other, and a group of rivals or a band of rivals he likes around him. So, he's just playing three-dimensional chess, and he's putting in people that are anti-war with people that, are touching God's hand and want to bomb every country known to man, and he just wants to see them clash. Okay, well, all I know, my mama told me you are who you surround yourself with. My mama said actions speak louder than words. He doesn't have to appoint Marco Rubio as anything. He doesn't have to appoint Mike Waltz. If he wanted to get out of Ukraine, if he wanted to cut the military budget, if he wanted peace, what did he say? Mexico's not bringing their best? Well, he's not bringing his best if these are the people he's lining it up. And you want to know something? Remember, J.D. Vance talked that anti-war stuff. Well, J.D. Vance is vice president-elect. Does he not have a say? Is he not? Obviously it's Trump's call, but it just seems like all these people who told us, well, these people are to the left of the Democrats. And this isn't to minimize that the Democratic Party has been totally pro-war and has been funneling cash to Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. It's not either or. They're both terrible, and they're both down with the military-industrial complex. But the bottom line is, this is, like Steve said, this is fucking you in the front, not through the back. This is stabbing you in the front, not through the back. And this is dangerous because at some point, Iran is going to respond if we continue antagonizing Iran. At some point, China will respond if you continue antagonizing China. Say what you want about either. Certainly a lot of human rights abuses and whatnot. At some point, if America keeps pounding their chest and putting in place, and by the way, Trump is very susceptible to the last person in the room. So if the last person in the room happens to be Mike Huckabee, God knows what Trump's going to do. If the last person in the room happens to be Stephen Miller, who's his deputy chief of staff, give it 6 months for the actual chief of staff to resign or be fired. Remember, Trump had like 15 chiefs of staffs. It was a revolving door. So I'm just saying this is not good. And I think the key here is we've had protests in the street for a year for a ceasefire. We have covered over 100 of them. When I say we, I mean John Farina has done amazing work for us. You and I both, Steve, have said, listen, not to be dicks, we respect the protest movement. Got to change your tactics. Got to start protesting with your wallet, because protesting in the streets is not doing it. But with that said, it will be very illuminating if we start seeing the Pod Save America crowd. It will be very illuminating if we start seeing the resistance brunch liberals now speaking out against this genocide, if it just gets a little bit more fuck you in your face with Trump, Huckabee, and the rest of the gang.
So let's look at Haim Saban and Sheldon Adelson, right? I can see these guys sitting there breaking bread.
Just so the audience knows, Haim Saban, basically the largest donor to the Democratic Party, probably for 20, 30 years, stole the Power Rangers from Japan, net worth of $3 billion, super duper uber Zionist.
He and Sheldon Adelson, I'm sure, break bread together. I'm sure that before he died, I'm sure that group in no way, shape, or form has a different agenda for Israel. I'm sure they are 100% in lockstep for the values and hopes and dreams of a Zionist Israel. And I'm sure they have the exact same beliefs as to Hamas and everything else. Every other person that is not a Zionist is not worth living. They call them animals. They're willing to kill them all. So to me, at this point in time, I think it has to become pretty obvious that whether it be Republicans in Trump or whether it be shit libs in Katmala, you're going to have the same marching orders from two people. Maybe there are various factions in the U.S., but they have the same geopolitical goals. And so that means regardless of which party's in power, because the parties are there to shape a narrative. They're there to shape a narrative that keeps the working class constantly at odds with one another while they simultaneously have a single objective and continue marching towards it. This is why it's so important to me, anyway, that I stop funneling thoughts through Democrat, Republican, and start thinking more like working class people, human beings, regular people, thinking about right and wrong. In other words, killing people, not killing people, in terms of military surrounding countries and militaries not surrounding countries, in terms of funneling weapons in and not funneling weapons in, not Democrat or Republican. And this is why it's so important that people that are, I consider myself not just post-duopoly, but post-electoral, in terms of, I don't think that there's any chance we get any change whatsoever via the ballot box or any other traditional establishment means for us to do it. Yes, hit them with the pocket, hit them in the wallet. But what did they do to get past hit them in the wallet? What they did was they raised interest rates. By raising interest rates, that funneled money to all the people that you would have otherwise tried to hold back your money from. And these guys with all their money sitting there in savings, sitting in bonds, sitting in other stocks, sitting there in hedge funds, are making money hand over fist, whether we stop their primary front, their storefront, instead of understanding that their money comes from passive capital, passive investments that they don't really have to do anything for. I think it's really fundamental to understanding the finance capital game, the end stage, late stage capitalism that is driving those rich people. They don't give a flying F about any of us. And we keep thinking that billionaires somehow or another just desperately want to help the little guy. And it's simply not true. I mean, you look at what Bill Gates did to Africa, withholding vaccines because of intellectual property. You look at all the shit that goes on with rich people. They are not for us, period. So in my estimation, the best way to assess not only the Trump cabinet that he's putting together and his appointees and whatever other actions he takes, but remember, there's someone above him. There's an entire group of people above him that hold the purse strings and hold all the things that make Trump give a shit. And that's why they donate. It's not just to one or the other. You notice a lot of them split their donations evenly. It's not like either or thing. So I really hope folks start getting a class consciousness, awareness of who has their best interest. And it's really not either party. They are literally both doing the exact same thing.
I want to be very clear. And Steve, I want to get into this a little bit later, more in depth about the way forward for the left. I want to be very clear because I'm seeing some, people, their feathers are ruffled in the chat. And the first time and last time watching, goodbye. out with you. And I'll say this. We got, I don't care if you're MAGA watching. We invite all comers, left, right, libertarian, anarchists. It doesn't matter. I'm not team blue or red. I personally voted for Stein. I don't care who you voted for. That's what I personally did. With that said, if you are a MAGA person triggered that Steve and I are calling balls and strikes and we're telling you that your cult leader lied to you, go away. Because here's the truth. You are hoodwinked just like the MSNBC people. You are hoodwinked to put on to play team sports in politics. You are hoodwinked to be on team red instead of team blue. When the reality is the only color that matters is green. The military-industrial complex, in large part, along with the fossil fuckers and big pharma, run this country. That's why I have the flag behind me, the United Corporations of America. So if you ever thought that Trump was truly anti-war, tell me how he was anti-war. Give me a specific. Did he cut the military budget? No. He increased the military budget. Did he end any wars? No. Did he cut, remove, shut down any of the 1,000 military bases of America around the world? No. Did he bomb Syria? Yes. Did he continue funding Saudi Arabia's genocide in Yemen, which we never talk about? Yes. In fact, credit to Bernie Sanders, and I believe it was Republican Mike Lee, they got a war powers resolution through bipartisan to end U.S. funding of Saudi Arabia's genocide on Yemen. Trump vetoed it. Trump vetoed it. You didn't hear these things on Fox News, huh? You didn't hear these things in Steve Bannon? Jimmy Dore forgot to tell you these things? Joe Rogan? So spare me that, you're being unfair. Now, did he start a new war? Not technically, but if that is your, he's anti-war because he didn't start a whole new war, you need higher expectations. Because he certainly didn't cut any wars. He certainly didn't cut the military spending. He didn't give you health care. He gave you crumbs. Crumbs. Just like Biden. So if you're so triggered and you're such a snowflake, go unsubscribe. I would rather wake up tomorrow to 1,000 people unsubscribed of you MAGA cultists than have to sit here and see you whining in the chat because I'm giving you facts about your dear leader. I digress. Moving on. Oh, no, not moving on. Not moving on. Steve.
Yes, sir.
It was very tough for me on election day for a variety of reasons. But I stood on a street corner in Philadelphia because I thought that there was going to be a standoff. I thought there was going to be a standoff between MAGA people and Kamala stands. But unbeknownst to me, they had moved the building where the ballots were being counted a half hour north of Philly because there were bomb threats. And, a guy from Virginia came up in 2020 with an arsenal of guns. So they moved it. All that was because of Trump, too, by the way. So anyway, I didn't have any action to cover in Philly. So I just stood on a street corner and started interviewing people during the day as people came by. So 2 kids came over. I don't know how old they were, maybe 18, 19, nice kids. And I thought to myself, because they were saying just insanely stupid things, but I said, you know what? Normally I would go ham, but I felt kind of bad. I didn't want to go ham on 2 teenagers and first-time voters because they're teenagers or brand new adults. And I didn't feel like I could go at them as aggressively as I would, an adult. With that said, I want to air some of this, not to embarrass them because they seem nice, although misguided, but to show you this is what happens. And I'm not for censoring anyone. If you want to go on I would love to go on Joe Rogan for my book, but I will call him out. I will call out the alternative podcasters who just spew bullshit. But these 2 that I'm about to show you this clip, one of them told me they voted for Trump. Well, let me just play the clip and then we'll react. Colin, if you have it. So tell us, you're from Philly?
Yes, sir.
Is this your first time voting?
It is.
Okay. Yeah, you're about 18, 19? 18. Awesome. So what was oh, okay. Awesome. So tell me if you want who you voted for, why'd you vote for them?
For sure. Trump all the way. I voted for him because I think that first off, he's funny. Second off, I think that he's president. Yeah, I think that he's going to do a lot for the country.
Let's just slow down for a second. The first thing So you're basically voting for because he's funny.
I mean, he is pretty funny. That's one of the reasons. Maybe it's
Are you going to a late night comedy lounge, or are you voting for maybe start nuclear war here?
I mean,
no new wars under Trump is what I'm saying. No new wars under Trump. New wars under Biden and Kamala. And I feel like we were all living better when Trump was in office, except for COVID. A bunch of unemployment there. All the prices of everything is so high. He first president to make peace with North Korea. Didn't even get a Nobel Peace Prize for that. I just feel like we need a change of office.
And for you, when you say no new wars, you're basically talking, obviously under Biden, things have gotten worse with Russia, Ukraine. Things have gotten worse.
The only president in years to have no new wars when he was in office. He kept us out of wars and kept other people out of wars.
You care under Trump, even though there was no hot wars. He increased us droning around the world. Obviously, didn't cut the military. Didn't get us out of Afghanistan. You have a problem with any of that?
No, I like that we stayed in Afghanistan.
Really?
Yes, I do.
How come?
Because of the terrorists that were there. I was pissed that Biden pulled us out of Afghanistan.
Interesting. So, with Trump, you like that no new wars, but you wanted him to stay in Afghanistan.
I don't think Russia would have invaded Ukraine if Trump would have won in 2020.
Really?
I don't think Israel would have. I don't think Israel and Palestine would be happening if Trump was in office.
You think other countries are more scared of Trump, I guess, so they wouldn't mess around?
Yes, I do. Trump made NATO actually pay up for once, and he didn't let them walk away.
Okay. Enough with the child abuse. So Steve, to be clear, yes. I think I was on my best behavior. I did not really go after. I did not go after them. I was very respectful, and I'm not going to now. Let's just say, kids, Joe Rogan is not the necessary allotment of vegetables you need in a day. And they did tell me later that they generally get their stuff from Rogan and Fox News. So go figure. But I want to make a point here, Steve. Although clearly, very little coherence in that. He's the peace candidate, but I don't like that Biden got out of Afghanistan. He's the peace candidate. Technically, he was wrong. Say what you want about Obama. He didn't actually start a brand new war, but I digress. But whatever. They were misguided on Trump. They thought things about him that aren't true. They probably were lacking information on him, which isn't completely their fault because it's what they're consuming. But I will say, we need to do a better. When I say we, I'm not talking about the Democratic Party. I'm saying we need to realize that at the end of the day, young people, just like a lot of middle-aged people, older people, they don't have a lot of time. They're working multiple jobs. They are driving Ubers. They're in the gig economy. So they're just kind of passively scrolling, Rogan or TikTok or whatever. And a lot of them just are naive, just like I was naive. I used to literally, when I was 18, I was for John Kerry. And I thought, Dems good, Republicans bad. Most of us in the audience probably got hoodwinked by Obama. So we all have taken L's here. But the point is, we got to do a better job of reaching people on the truth. And the truth is, these people are being hoodwinked by Trump because the Democrats haven't given them anything structurally, economically. And that's why it's so easy to be hoodwinked on the cultural stuff, on the woke stuff. If the minimum wage is $7.25, if all you got was a short-term child tax credit or a short-term unemployment or short-time this or tax credit here, when you don't have health care, when you're in student loan debt, when you're in medical debt, when you can't get out of your parents' basement till if you're lucky, when you're 40. It's Gen Z, not just all people, but not a lot of economic hope right now for kids that age, unless they're living with their parents or, they're well-to-do. So I don't blame them for a lot of what they said, which is stupidity, but we got to realize we have to do a better job of reaching those people. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to, I don't have the answers, but to me, it's scary that more and more of these people are moving to fake populism and strong men. And we're not just seeing it in America. You're seeing it elsewhere too in other countries. Your thoughts?
Well, we hear everybody always talk about Hitler in 1933. We're always relating Trump to the rise of Hitler. But what never happens ever is what led up to 1933, which was the Treaty of Versailles. Severe poverty, severe sanctions made by the French, severe conditions within the Weimar Republic that created things so horrible. They were looking for anyone that had a plan, anyone that said, I'm strong enough to beat back these pansy asses that allowed our country to be cuckolded by the Treaty of Versailles. The rage and the anger of the Treaty of Versailles was so severe, it gave rise to someone like Hitler, okay? So what people fail to understand is Hitler was a result of piss poor economic conditions, piss poor governance, and piss poor, social safety nets of any variety. Okay. So what do we have here? We have a COVID pandemic where everybody received COVID checks, or a lot of people received COVID checks. There was a lot of support being pumped into the economy. People were able to breathe for a minute. And then all of a sudden, Joe Biden declared that we're over the pandemic, and they cut off the support that was coming through the door. They cut off those very things. They claimed they were going to cut off the student debt, but then he used some bogus freaking, Emergency Powers Act instead of the Education Act that he could have used to literally wipe it out. No problem. It wasn't an issue that he couldn't wipe out student debt. It's that the place that he chose to do it from was a shitty, stupid one that he knew wasn't going to work because he didn't really want to do it. So now you've got people after a pandemic, you've got high interest rates. You've got people that are impoverished that are no longer getting COVID checks. You've got, honestly, people trying to make ends meet, but grocery prices are higher, gas prices are higher, everything. Rent has gone up. My mortgage, I get a notice from my company saying, your mortgage is going up $100 a month now because it doesn't cover the taxes and whatever. So guess what? Now, all of a sudden, real pain, electricity gone way up, $500 a month, another $100. So people are feeling horrible economic conditions. But what did Democrats sell? Every shitlib, Occupy Democrats, the other 99%, posting memes of the stock market is doing fantastic. What do you mean Joe Biden didn't give us the best economy ever? Now, all of a sudden, some of the MMT economists and others that I used to follow are suddenly not silent anymore. They're now suddenly saying, well, the Democrats didn't really give anybody anything. They literally turned it off. So what you have is a bunch of economically illiterate people, both Democrats and Republicans. How many shitty ass online social media news groups don't understand economics, pump out stupid my hard-earned tax dollars and all the other crap? So these kids, they're hearing nothing but bullshit. They're hearing Joe Rogan and them being real serious face as they're smoking joints, talking, well, the national debt and blah, blah, blah. They hear this and they're like, yeah, we got to get rid of the debt. What are you talking about, man? They're blowing up the deficit. They're thinking these things, and they don't realize that the deficit is our surplus. It's the only thing we get. If the government doesn't spend more money into it, we suffer. All of a sudden, think about Philadelphia right now. Just today, they released a thing out there that SEPTA is about to jack up the prices of high mass transit. For the poorest people use mass transit. They're going to jack the price of mass transit up. Why? Because tax receipts are down. Why? Because states and local governments don't create the currency. Sorry, state by staters. And so now all of a sudden they got to jack the rates up to cover the shortfall. And what does that do? For the people that are already hurting from inflation, they're now, in order to get to a job, they're going to have to pay even higher prices. Okay? They don't understand how inflation came about. They don't understand anything. You heard them. Oh, Biden brought in inflation. Well, yeah, of course he did. Because people are terrified to put price controls. They're terrible to make companies terribly short-sighted and doing any of that. And you ask yourself, well, why wouldn't they do that? And it's because they both report to the same master, capital. Capital wants to maximize capital accumulation. We, on the other hand, get to feel the results of that. So naturally, 1933, the night of the long knives, the brown shirts, and all the other shit that happened in Germany, We're wondering why it's got any potential in this country. And it's because people stayed quiet on shitty economics and tried to shame people for not feeling how great the Biden economy was. And I include some MMT bigwigs that have written great books that have a lot of love, but literally sat there and said, Joe Biden stuck the fucking landing. And because of that kind of snake oil shit, it wrecks the entire space for people. People have stopped believing, and they look at someone like Donald Trump who comes in, I'm going to make it better. They don't give a shit whether he does or not. They just hear something. It's got to be better than the turds on the other side. And that's what happens. But reality, it's the exact same thing. The hiking of interest rates was done by the Fed, which was done in coordination with the Biden White House and Larry Summers and all the rest of the horrible wretches. And that pumped tons and tons of money into the rich people, tons of frickin' money into the rich people's hands, simultaneously making all of our lives just a little bit shittier. And it didn't tame inflation. And people are still dealing with it right now. And you know what? As the layoffs begin, and they will begin because that's what happens when you reduce spending. As the layoffs begin, it's going to become even worse. So what do you think Trump will do? My bet, Trump will reduce taxes. He'll impress a lot of people because suddenly they'll have a little bit more change in their pocket. And when you're desperate for a little bit of change, that little teeny bit is going to feel awful good. Doesn't matter about the rest of the stuff because after all, the Democrats funded genocide, right? What the hell? What's the difference? And that is what you're facing. And really, that's what the people above both parties are hoping for, to keep us divided, to keep us at each other's throat, to never, ever, ever stand up and claim our rights and fight back. And this whole, I'm going to be a Democrat, I'm going to be a Republican, shit completely misses the point. Donald Trump is playing on everyone's insecurities. Everyone knows Biden was fucking a dead man walking, didn't have a working brain cell in his head. Kamala was a nasal, empty ghoul of a suit. And Trump is sitting there going, I feel your pain. I'll build a bridge to a new tomorrow. Okay. He's doing the Bill Clinton routine from the other side. And you know what? Let's be honest. They said, hey, Trump's funny. I remember back in the day when Bill Clinton was elected and all the ladies going, oh my God, he's dreamy. He's so cute. I'm voting for him. So let's not pretend that people have always been stupid as fuck when it comes to how they think of these things. They're not thinking, what is the ownership class doing? They're not thinking of any of that. They're simply thinking about right here, right now, my pocket, my wallet. I'm desperate. And there's good, legitimate reasons to be short-sighted when you're desperate to pay your bills, when you're desperate to stay out of jail, when you're desperate to survive.
And to be clear, I'm not, this is not an indictment, or I'm not shitting on all Trump voters. If you voted for Trump, you voted for Trump. I'm shitting on the ones who are complaining that we're giving you the facts.
They don't know anything. That's the problem. They are stupid too. They're misinformed. They're all that way.
But the point is, if you voted for Trump, well, be happy with your, crumbs of a tax cut. It ain't going to be big. And he's going to give much bigger tax cuts to the wealthy and corporations like he did the first time. Be happy as the environment, the few regulations we have are decimated. I don't really see prices going down significantly because he's talking about 200% tariffs, which are going to cause companies to jack up their prices. It'll be interesting. It'll be dramatic. It'll be a circus. But fundamentally, we're going to just have a repeat of what we had 4 years ago, which is Democrats running on, a return to normalcy.
It's worse. It's worse, Jordan. I swear on God, it's worse. People are sitting there saying we need a left-wing Joe Rogan. Well, shit, they've hated me forever. But regardless, they say we need a meathead. So now they're propping up Fetterman, the biggest Zionist, anti-progressive scumbag in the world. It's like 3 days in, and they've already put Buttigieg and fucking Fetterman into the mix. This is the level of stupid. It's like, we'll just get a dumb meathead and we'll call it a day. This is literally how stupid these people are. And there's just no escaping from it, because that is why we have to disconnect from this shit, literally unplug our minds from it and start focusing on how do we as people, as individuals, fight back in a system meant to manufacture consent and manufacture a narrative that we all think about as if it's reality, but it's not reality. It's bullshit and the chef's salad, and we repeat it so it becomes someone else's reality every time we say it. I say we stop saying their narrative and start speaking to the narrative that we want to see and start building power to address that, because it's not going to happen through electoral politics, period.
Absolutely. And before we move on to another idiot we're going to comment on, I just want to give some shout outs and reminder. Thursday, if you came here late, Thursday night is our monthly members call. So that's at 7:30 Eastern time, 4:30 Pacific. If you are a Status Coup paying member, you will get the link. If you're a member through our website, you'll get an email with the link to the members call about a half hour early. So that's at 7 o'clock Eastern. You should get it. The call's at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. If you are a YouTube member, check YouTube community tab about a half hour before the call. Again, Thursday, 7:30 Eastern. If you sign up before Thursday, you will get the link. It's through a program like Zoom. You don't have to have your camera on if you don't want. You could just listen. If you want to have your camera on and talk, you could ask questions, comments, concerns. All are welcome, even MAGA. Okay. And we need you because we are still the only independent outlet routinely on the ground. We want to get back on the ground. I got a couple stories that I'll tell you about that we're looking to cover over the next few days on the ground, but we need funding to do it. We are, Steve, you seeing any other independent outlets on the ground?
No, sir.
So please support us. StatusCoup.com/join. Sign-ups yesterday. Thank you, new members. Morgan, Daniel, Anna. New members today. Michelle, Kent, Jacinth. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Donations. We also really appreciate your donations to the cause. $40 from Kevin. $100 from George. How can I make or buy that corporate States of America flag you have with all the corporations as stars? I shouldn't tell you because this company, when I reached out saying, hey, I'm directing all these viewers to your website, maybe we can split a little bit of the revenue. They told me, no, thanks. But it's Adbusters. Adbusters.com, I think it's called. You can get the flag. Maybe we'll create our own. We'll see. Adbusters.com at $100 from Blake. Good energy, strong arguments, sincerity, right on. Thank you. If you're already a member, we always appreciate you taking that other step and donating, because it's not going so we could have Trump steaks. It's going so we could cover the reporting costs and go on the road. Steve, I don't know if you've been noticing, obviously in 2016, Trump blamed Hillary's loss to the used car salesman on Russia. Well, now the whole Democratic Party elite cabal is blaming it on woke, not the numbers that clearly show, I don't know, Colin, the charts in the live doc, 75% of voters said inflation had moderate or severely impacted, moderately or severely caused hardship to their life. This was the top issue, not woke. And before you say, well, Jordan, woke wasn't asked about in the exit polls. Do you really think the top deciding factor for Americans all over the country was cancel culture? If you think that, go touch grass. Also, 46% of the country said the economy was worse off than 4 years ago, and 67% of the country in exit polls said country was moving in the wrong direction. So it's really not complicated what the problem was here. I think there's deeper issues. I also think Gaza, not the defining issue, but it was an issue. I did a video on that earlier showing, I think, Kamala Harris's immoral, cowardly standing by this blank check for genocide did dearly cost her, particularly in Michigan, even Wisconsin. But the gang is blaming it on woke. Let's listen to our friend James Carville, who infamously said it's the economy stupid, but apparently not this time. Here we go.
You and I have been in politics for a long time. All right. And if the country wants something different, you try to give the country something different.
Okay, so that wasn't the clip I wanted. It's the other Carville clip. We'll get back to this clip in a minute. Colin, you got the other clip?
I'm not sure. I'll check that. I thought that was
it's the media clip with Carville. But we'll respond to this one while he's getting that one. So he said, if the country wants something different, then you give them something different. That's very interesting, Steve. Then it must be easy to find the clip of James Carville calling for Medicare for all, right? Because the country has clearly said in 2020, 70-something% of Democrats polled said they wanted Medicare for all. Over 50% of independents wanted Medicare for all. I believe Republicans, it was almost 50% wanted Medicare for all. So James Carville says when the country says they want something different, give them something different. Maybe he has a flexible version of different. Your thoughts?
I think Carville's saying things. I think he's just saying things, just like Larry Summers just says things, right? I don't think there's much to it because really at the end of the day, they're there to manufacture consent. And so if he's out there shucking and jiving like a regular old dude for everybody to hear in his folksy Southern accent, and they all, oh yeah, man, okay. I mean, this is team sports. Look, I talked to a friend about this the other day. I was walking through a grocery store and I saw these MAGA hats, and they were all kind of white and they weren't like rich people. They were freaking poor people. They were people that had long beards. They were people that were, literally you could just tell that they were just tired of somebody telling them they had to be something different than what they wanted to be, is the way you could just feel it from them. Right. And I started thinking about it, and it's like this whole vote blue wave, this whole vote MAGA hat. This is the epicenter of identity politics. Not I'm gay or I'm white or I'm black or what. I'm talking about I am MAGA. That's an identity. I am vote blue sycophant. That's an identity. These people have these identities and they're not interested in whatever the real facts are. Okay. So Carville's sitting there telling you, hey, we'll be your sugar daddy. We'll be whatever you want us to be. People want something different. We'll give them something different. We don't have any policies. We don't have any ideology. In fact, they went so far during the Kamala Harris thing to say Kamala Harris doesn't need policy to win. I just seeing that headline today is so humorous to me because there's a whole team of people out there that are like, not Trump is enough. And so these identities are what people like Carville are speaking to. You don't realize it because you don't think of yourself as an identity politics person. I guarantee a MAGA doesn't think they're an identity politics person. And I know the blue wave, Ukraine flag, the blue bracelet folks don't think that's an identity, but it is. It's all identity politics. They don't have a base.
Can good policy be our identity, Philip?
Wouldn't that be something?
Not in a country whose government has been sold to multi-billion-dollar corporate.
We have no agency. Like I for years, if anybody listened to me for the last decade, I've spent day in and day out explaining the federal finance system. I have stopped doing this as much as I used to because the only reason I use MMT anymore is to radicalize people, to show you could have Medicare for all, you could have a Green New Deal, you could have student debt wiped out, you could have had Flint water crisis solved instantly, you could have given Puerto Rico everything it needed after the hurricanes, you could have fixed everything after Hurricane Sandy, you could have done whatever you need to do because the government creates currency out of thin air every time. By law, Article 1, Section 8 of your U.S. Constitution that is worthless as a piece of toilet paper, okay? But they literally could do all that stuff. So to me, MMT serves one purpose, to show you what they could do, why they won't do it. And it's not just Republicans, folks. Democrats are saying, we can't do that. You got Elizabeth Warren saying, I'm a capitalist to my bones. Okay. You are not running away from your problems. Your problems are right there in front of you. You're just being distracted with identity. And Carville's there to feed that.
I left Kristi Noem out. She's going to be Trump's Homeland Security chief, which is scary. I'm keeping my dogs at home. If you remember, she killed her dog. No doubt about it. Trump has picked her simply because he likes looking at her. Let's be honest. All right, we do have the right Carville clip. Buckle up, folks. Here we go.
Let's get it there, and let's act like an opposition party. And yeah, an opposition party. We have no power. You understand that? None. We have no legislative power. We have no executive power. We have no judicial power. So when you're out of power, you're an opposition party. And go and tell all of the people that are sending you and asking you for money, justify what you did, justify what you did wrong, and tell us what you're going to do different. Because what you've done ain't worth a shit. All right? Get your head around that. in all of the Washington-based Democrats farting around, going to wine and cheese parties and talking about how misogynistic race, get your ass out of Washington and go work on a 2026 campaign and do penance to make up for your goddamn arrogance and stupidity. So we're not going to say, well, we're going to say, we told you so. We told you this identity shit was disaster. We told you to get out in front of public safety issues. You didn't. You didn't. We told you to have an open process and demonstrate the magnificent and staggering and deep talent that exists in the modern Democratic Party. You didn't. We told you to differentiate yourself from Biden. You didn't. I hate to be some fucking know-it-all, but all of these things are part of the record.
First of all, I want to do a wellness check on the cat. I want a wellness check on his cat. Are you not feeding your cat, James? You down in the bayou. Are you not feeding the cat? Secondly, Mr. Carville, who reportedly loves saying really degrading, misogynistic, racist things. He's one of these people. Cut it out with the identity shit and the woke stuff. But I'm with you. The Democratic Party has cloaked itself in identity politics. However, you're not then going further and saying, how about fight to raise the minimum wage? How about, I don't know, give us health care like every other country? How about put some meat on the bone? How about give them some Creole with that fish? How about actually stop with the identity shit and get to the economic populism? Because we played the clip from Senator Chris Murphy yesterday. He's an establishment guy, but
sellout fuck. Sorry,
that's fine. But he finally seems to have seen the. Yeah, he saw the light now. Whatever his motivation, political it might be, he's seeing the light now. But all these people, they seem to think that the reason we're not just talking about, like, if you look at Michigan and Wisconsin, he didn't win by that much. But in other swing states, he won by a lot. He also increased in blue states. He only lost New Jersey by 5 points. He increased in New York. He increased in like 92% of the counties in America. That's not about identitarianism or wokeness. That's about the rent is too damn high. That's about people are working 2 jobs. That's about, Colin, if you have the chart that I asked you for yesterday with the income inequality, that's about the 40-year bank robbery that people are finally wising up to. There's your top 0.01% and your top 1%. James Carville doesn't want to talk about that. The poor cat. Where's J.D. Vance? He cares so much about cats. So I just say, and Steve, I don't know if you saw this, Colin, if you have it still from yesterday. Morning Joe is also just outraged about cancel culture. And they got their analysis from the wealthy people they go out to dinner with. Colin, if you could play the clip about Morning Joe and the woke has gone too far.
Because you have that stacked on top of what happened on college campuses this fall.
Oh, my God.
Stacked on top of what's been happening on college campuses over the past 4 or 5 years. I have said this on the air, and every time I've said it, people said, oh, you're just saying that because you're a white conservative. No, I'm just saying it because every Democrat that we have ever sat down with dinner with over the past 5 years who have kids that go to colleges say their kids are afraid to speak in class because they'll be canceled. Let me say that again. And they're all Democrats. Everybody that we've had dinner with, if they have a kid in college, you can go, how are the Red Sox going? Yeah, fine. Yeah. Sitting there eating. Beautiful day today, wasn't it? Yeah. My daughter at University of Virginia, she's afraid to raise her hand in class because if she says something that's politically incorrect, she will immediately be canceled.
Yeah, that's why 1/3. That's why 1/3 of people, non-white voters, people of colors, voted for Trump because they're afraid to be canceled and wokeism. That's why the majority of Latino men voted for Trump. wokeism and cancel culture. That's why Harris only won young voters, Gen Z, by 11 points. That's why she barely won young men. It's all wokeism. This is like Russiagate stupidity in reverse. Now, does woke... I don't even like the term woke because I think woke is a good thing in a lot of circumstances. But does political correctness go too far sometimes? Of course. But this is all overly elitist, overly wealthy people that don't even buy their own groceries. You think Joe Scarborough and Mika go to the grocery store and buy their own groceries? These are people that probably don't even drive. They probably have drivers. The people pontificating, and frankly, it's not just in corporate media. A lot of these big name podcasters are also very disconnected from blue collar working class, white working class, black, brown, you name it. Woke is not a reason for this level of a defeat. It's the economy, stupid. It's the new Gilded Age, stupid. And I think the neoliberal bubble has popped. I really, really do.
Let's put this in perspective, right? When you have economic populism, all ships truly do rise. Okay. They shot down Bernie Sanders when he came with the economic populist message that would have lifted all boats. Now, mind you, there are very specific, real, honest to God grievances, systemic grievances. I mean, there is, honest to God, stacks of data of the unequal treatment that blacks receive in the judicial system, in the criminal justice system, that in jobs, etc. This is not even accidental. This is like empirical. Okay. So there's real legitimate reasons, but those reasons are there because of capitalism and because of the nature of the way of when corporations and state merge, that is fascism. And fascism and capitalism are brothers and sisters, are kissing cousins. And when they need to demonize someone, when we need a scapegoat to make it all work, this is why we got to have it's not Palestinians, they have a human right to live. It's they're animals because of Hamas. I love the K in front. Hamas, right? The idiots buy into this. And this whole thing of, hey, look, we're not a racist nation anymore. Obama was elected. The exceptionalism of the billionaire class, of the millionaire class, etc., obscures and obfuscates the real working conditions of Jane and Joe six-pack of all varieties, okay? So the real material conditions of everyone not making bank. I mean, think of those idiots that you saw coming out of the DNC convention laughing and as they're talking about Gaza. There is an elite. Think about the people that were in DC that were at these elite, dinners and fundraising dinners and stuff. And very different world, totally different life, absolutely balkanized society, the rich and the poor. And they allow a few tokens from each group to come up, and that's their excuse to see we are not a racist world. Everybody has a chance to succeed. We got a gay guy, here's Pete Buttigieg. We got a black woman, here's Kamala. We got a woman, here's Hillary. We got a, whatever. We got an octogenarian, here's Biden. We got somebody who is, whatever. We got it all. See, we're really a pluralistic society. Aren't you so proud? Right? And it's really a mirage to blind us from the fact that we're being starved. And this is why it's so fucking important for us to pull back from these narratives, not get sucked in like a fucking black hole. We have to resist the gravitational pull to these idiotic thoughts. And we have to say, wait a minute, hold on. My grocery bills have gone up. My electric bill's gone up. My pay has not gone up. They are not taking care of us. We're sitting there trying to say what a great economy it is because we're on Team Blue. Oh, you got to be an idiot. Look at the stock market. Team Blue. You're not thinking as your family. Fuck what they're selling. What do your eyes tell you? What does your pocketbook tell you? What does your friend's suffering tell you? Okay? And start processing things in reality. Not in these narratives that they're trying to sell us. I use her name a lot, and people probably don't know who I'm talking about, but this is like Leni Riefenstahl style propaganda. the great society, the big chin. You can see all the Aryan race, the cartoons and stuff, the great visage of these strong Aryans, blah, blah, blah. It's this fake narrative. They're building this mythical USA that doesn't exist. And it's important for us to pull back from that, because the economic populism that you need to survive isn't coming from either of these groups, folks. And until you recognize that you deserve, we all deserve, even the worst MAGA and the worst identity politics shitlib, every one of them deserves a life without this precarity, a life without having to worry about dying from cancer because they can't afford treatment, a life without having to worry about their children getting shot and killed in schools. We should not have to worry about shit like this, okay? But because we are so enraptured with the identity of red team, blue team, and even green team, because see, in the end, it's not whether you have a good party or not. I mean, if you say 70% of Dems want Medicare for all, I mean, who am I to judge, right? It's really awesome. But show me how your party represented 70%. You do not live in a democracy. The quicker you process that information, the quicker we can organize and do something different. Because right now, you keep throwing the penny in the wishing well, hoping for something different, and it always comes back the same. You think that Mika and frickin' Scarborough didn't poll test, that weren't told, hey, we got to start killing this woke thing. That's how we're going to get back on track. You think that John Fetterman doing his shit isn't part of the larger ploy to manufacture consent? You're crazy. This entire thing is about, we don't need educated people anymore. We're going to eliminate the Department of Education. We're going to eliminate education. But you know what? At some level, the indoctrination versus the teaching kids how to think, teaching him how to process critical thinking skills, the indoctrination of our public school system is horrific. I'm telling my wife, I don't want my son learning all this fucking jingoistic USA, these colors don't run bullshit. But that is exactly the crap that is taught in our public schools. And you could sit there and say, well, we got to fund education, but you're funding like literal jingoist bullshit, red, white, and blue, the shining light on the hill. These colors don't run. We got to pray for our vets. Everything is like, this is they're fighting for our freedoms. They hate us for our freedoms. No, they don't hate us for our freedoms because we don't have any freedoms. They hate the rich above that are literally enslaving the global South and doing all kinds of horrible shit around the world in our name. And we're sitting there going, USA, USA, USA. And we think we're doing something great and glorious, but in reality, we're facilitating the demise. We are facilitating our own demise. And until we finally understand that we have to pull back from this, disengage, and really consider what we want society to be and not listen to the narratives they're selling us, we're stuck. We're stuck in an endless loop, one repeat. It's the Matrix 101.
Absolutely. Stephen, tell people where they can find your great work.
Absolutely. Every Saturday morning, check out Macro and Cheese. Please, folks, it's not MMT. It is some, but it's mostly a combination, a blending, a synthesis of geopolitical USA struggles. We just had Jason Hickel for Gaza, genocide and empire. It's phenomenal. Next week, we're going to have Fadl. Tonight at Real Progressives, we have our Macro and Chill, which is a replay of the existing, it's going to be a Jason Hickel episode. You won't want to miss it. And we're going to talk, we're going to listen, we're going to talk about what it means to us. And right now you can catch me pretty much there on Substack and Twitter. Find me at Austerity is Murder, SD Grumbine. That's about it. Realprogressive.org is back online too, by the way.
Thank you, kind sir. Glad to have you back in the fold. Let me read some. If you got to go, boogie out. I'm going to read some super chats here.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Social emotional learning with Dr. Donnie, $2. Tell Sexy Bear Man not to lose too much weight. He left. We'll tell him later. Talking about Steve. Teresa, $10 super sticker. Lemon character holding his hands with gratitude on his face. Marley, $10 super chat. Thanks so much. Teresa, another $10 super chat. Pair character jumping up and down saying number one fan. C-Dub, $5 super chat. The Capital Order, how economists invented austerity and paved the way to fascism. And Ken Schaefer gifted 5 memberships. Holy cow. Thank you so much, Ken. That's right, folks. You can gift Status Coup memberships to other people. So I very much appreciate Ken and all the great folks who have purchased gift memberships ahead of the holiday season. We really appreciate that. By the way, folks, I got to remind you, if you sign up as a Status Coup member on our website, don't forget to finish the process. I see quite a few people signing up, which is, putting in your information, your email, all that, but you forget the last step, which is your card information, the money. We need you to finish the payment so we get the support. So if you think you've signed up, go back and make sure you actually put your payment your payment information through. But thank you, new member Michelle, Kent, Jason, and we hope more of you sign up. Again, Thursday night is our members only call. Listen, there's a lot of outlets out there asking you for money. As far as I know, we're one of the only ones that are independent and routinely on the ground. I was on the ground covering the election. We did a 10-day reporting trip through 3 swing states. We also were on the ground on election night. I was in Pennsylvania. Tina was in Nevada. It cost money. I just had to pay her cameraman. I got to pay John. We got to pay for hotels, transportation. It costs a lot of money to do investigative on-the-ground reporting. That's why so few do it. So if you want us to continue, please sign up. All I'm asking for is $5 a month. That you can become a Status Coup member for as low as $5 a month to support living, breathing, independent on-the-ground journalism. If you're not willing to shell out $5, then we can't go on the ground as much as we do now because costs are adding up and we need to grow and we need to grow significantly. So please consider it. $5 a month is 16 cents a day. That's what $5 a month equals. $10 a month, because we do have membership at $10 too, is 33 cents a day. And as kindly as I could say it, there's going to be plenty of resistance media over the next 4 years. There's going to be plenty of outlets only covering Trump 24/7. There's probably not going to be more than 1 or 2 outlets actually covering on the ground all the other stories the corporate and most independent media are going to ignore, including corporate sacrifice zones, environmental genocide, communities being poisoned by the government, water contamination, worker exploitation, union organizing, worker strikes, protest movements. We try to cover as much as possible, but we need to hire another reporter. We need to be able to hire a producer. We need to be able to hire additional staff. So please, I'm begging you, sign up. And I look forward to the members call Thursday night. Again, if you sign up as a member before Thursday, you will get the link through your email, StatusCoup.